Great. Well, I will call this meeting of the CPA Committee to order for December 18th, 2025 on Zoom. It's 6:03 p.m. Welcome, everyone. The first order of business is some announcements. And so we have one slight change to the agenda. Which Leah let me know about this week, and you may have noticed it, that one of the presentations today that's sort of, oh, Leah, did you?
No, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were waving to me. One of the presentations that was originally slated for historic preservation has moved to recreation, which is the industrial history. Is that right?
Yes, of the Mill River. It's
Yeah.
not the continuation of the survey, the other one.
Right. That stays in. So
Yeah.
so tonight's originally this is the final evening for presentations from our 16 proposals. And it was originally slated to be all historic preservation, but we do have one recreation proposal now as a result of that switch. Does anyone have questions about that or? Okay, great. So that was one announcement. I also wanted to remind those who are with us tonight and those who may be watching this on Zoom later
Mhm.
that we have a brief break over the holidays, and we come back together to begin deliberations on January 15th at 6 p.m. And we will have one additional opportunity for public comment on the 15th before, as we do it at the beginning of each meeting, and then we will go into deliberations, and that will be the end of the public comment opportunity. We will have public comment this evening in just a few minutes. So I wanted to just review quickly, especially for new members, but from my experience, and Bob mentioned this, I think, last week or another time, that sometimes it's 2 or 3 years into this work where you just need some reminders of the process, or at least I did. So I just wanted to go through the process of what we'll be doing in deliberations very briefly, and then we'll go into approving minutes and public comment. Sound okay? All right. So we mentioned at the very first meeting of CPA this fall that we looked at we took a very quick look at the sort of ranking spreadsheet that we use during deliberations, but I just wanted to offer up another spreadsheet that Leah will be sharing with you after the meeting that just helps in preparation for that meeting of deliberations on the 15th. And so what I think would be useful is to have everyone between now and the 15th have an opportunity to review your notes, review any of the meeting recordings, the questions. We have a whole list of questions that we gave to applicants and got responses for. Any of that material, the notes that you've taken, the minutes, and get a sense from your own perspective how you rank each of these projects. And the way we rank them is 1 to 5. That's been the process to date, or of late, at least in the last 5 years. One being sort of the least, high, 5 being the highest ranked and 1 being the least, in terms of what you want to move forward. Probably you wouldn't want to move that particular project forward. And oftentimes, it's 3 or 4, something like that in the middle. And folks, if you refer to the CPA guidelines that are on the CPA portion of the town website, it talks about how, kind of generally speaking, how we look at these projects. And it's you're bringing your own perspective, your own, that's why we have, diverse perspectives from across the town. as to what is kind of an most urgent, perhaps, what's going to affect the largest number of people, what is most likely to be able to be completed. Sometimes we have proposals that are super thorough and we feel very confident that they can be completed, and other times it's a looser proposition. So it's a set your own sense of, the importance, the urgency, the likelihood of getting completed, the effect on the town. And we also will be looking at the percentage that we require for each of the different categories. So that's not something that you have to worry about or take into consideration initially. But the rankings are honestly just to get yourself in a sense of priority. Then and I'll share just in a second, the spreadsheet. I'm offering it to you. You can use your own, you can do whatever you want, but it's just a way to simplify it for you to keep your notes. And Leah kindly put all of the proposals in the amount of the request of the proposal and a category for ranking, a column for ranking. Then when we come together on the 15th, we have an opportunity to share all of our rankings for each project so we could see where the committee is in terms of cohesion. We might be all leaning towards one or two, and maybe we're just, all over the map on the rest of them. But the way it often comes out is that there are probably a handful in which we have diverse perspectives. And those are the ones we start having conversations with, because those are likely the ones that we want to have. We want to hear from everyone about their perspective on the project, and try to build some type of, make your case for something. We try to build consensus, but then in the end, we vote on each project. So I'll just show you or Leah will show you quickly. And anyone who's gone through this process and wants to offer any other additional insight, we could do so now, or we could do that on the 15th. But I just wanted you to see this so that you would know kind of where between now and the 15th, what kind of time to set aside to get prepared so that you're ready to provide your own rankings. So, thank you, Leah. So this is just, we'll send this out again. It's a tool. It's whatever, if it makes it easier for you. If you have something more sophisticated you have been working with or want to work with, that's totally fine. But it's essentially, what is the proposal number, the category, the name of the applicant, the project, the amount, and then a column for ranking. And you might begin to say, oftentimes when you rank something really high or in the middle, you have a sense of, especially when we have limited funds, $6 million in requests and 2.4 million available, we have to either decline several, or we have to reduce some of the amounts that we can give from what is being requested. So you can begin building that kind of sense initially, and any notes you have as to why you would rank something a 1 or a 2 or a 5.
I don't know why the formatting is a little off, but it should be fine when you guys get it.
Yeah, it looked fine when you sent it to
Okay.
me. Yeah, so I don't,
And can
yeah.
I wanted to know, I'm
Yep.
assuming I should have done this, but the Amherst All-Wheel Skate Park project that reduced their budget in the last
Yes.
meeting, I believe it was, I and they had two options, 20,000 or 40. So I
Hmm.
reduced it to 40 just so we were sort of at that level.
Yes. Thank
And I
you.
put a note that it could be either 20 or 40,
Thank
but
you.
just in case your totals look different than the original ones that we sent out.
Great. Thanks for that note. Appreciate that. Jonas, you had a question.
Yeah, I'm wondering, in this lead up to the 15th, should we be looking at the total and the available? Should we be
Yeah.
trying to, like, let's say we love 8 of them and they're coming in at 4 million. Should we start just trying to prioritize to try to get it in our heads down to the 2.5 million?
Yeah, it's often helpful. It may not ever come out like any one of us would imagine in the spreadsheet, but it is helpful because oftentimes someone brings a suggestion to the table, and we we discussed that, at least it's a starting point. So it's a great way to, it's a great exercise if you can do that and get a sense of where you, and it also is a great exercise because if you think something's a five, anyway, you'll see that you'll say, oh, but it's a five, but we just don't have enough versus it's a three, and I think we should only do this amount. And we can talk through this we will talk through it a little bit more on the 15th. So, Robin.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I don't know if this is time for it, but one of the things that took me a minute to understand was how bonding works.
Mhm.
So we're looking at $6 million here, but let's just imagine that we took $4 million of projects and bonded them all. We'd have enough
Yeah,
for
yeah,
everything because
right.
the bonding, the funding for it doesn't start until the project starts. And so then the bonded yearly amount gets applied to that year's CPA funds, if that makes sense. It's definitely a challenging process to understand, but it's basically like kind of like the credit card. So we push it over there and it'll hit in other years, but it won't hit this year.
Yeah,
If you had a shortfall of $1 million and you decided to bond one of your projects, you actually wouldn't have a shortfall. So
that is such an important point, Robin. Thank you. And Jonas, that's something we will review. We will have Sean with us on the 15th to talk about that. But it is great to kind of see how you might do it if we weren't bonding, then maybe have in your mind some of the larger amounts, and you can play with it. And then when we talk with Sean, we'll have a better sense of what that could look like. So I really appreciate that, Robin. It's a really good point. Jonas.
Curious, is there any kind of historical data of like what percentage ends up getting bonded of the shortfall? Like, is it like pretty often it gets bonded or big varying?
I don't think I have that data, but we can we can send you again the current schedule so you can kind of see
Right.
how things are scheduled, but I don't have it in terms of.
Right. But we might recommend it, but of course we don't.
That's true.
Just
That's the other piece of it. Yeah.
Just a recommendation, not a
Yeah.
just carry any more weight. Okay.
Yeah. And we will also have the opportunity to request some guidance at that point from the town as to prioritizing certain of the town projects and maybe bonding. Sometimes they come to us with a suggestion, like here's one way you might do it, and we talk about that, and we might use it or we might not, or adjust that. Dave, did you have a addition?
Yeah, I was just going to kind of build on that last point you made, Katie, which is, I guess my advice to the committee would be to start with your sense of the project, its importance, how well it's put together, how well the budget is put together. And I guess, if I were in your shoes, I at this stage, I wouldn't worry as much about the total of all the 16 projects. On the face of that, does the project have merit? Obviously, it is eligible. Does it have merit? And how do you feel about, how it's put together and how it's been presented? And then on the 15th, and then, it might take us a couple of meetings when Sean comes in, as Katie said, staff will get a sense of where you all are going. And then we might go away on the 15th and say, let us work some numbers, come back to you the next week with an idea or two or three and see which approach you like. But I would also advise you to take a look at that initial spreadsheet because that shows you what projects are still being borrowed, and how many years each one has. Because the more you bond or the town bonds these projects, the less we will have moving forward for projects in the future. But I would lead with the merits of the project, how well they were presented, put together, the budgets, and then let's take a look at the numbers in January.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. And I appreciate you saying that because when I went through, just from my own experience, reviewing 16 projects, ranking them, and having a discussion about all 16, it can't be done in one meeting. It's very hard to do that. I mean, unless things were not eligible or, things were more obvious. So It will definitely take 2 meetings.
If I could, there could be an opportunity that we, in the past, we have gone back to applicants and said, could you do it for less?
Mhm.
And propose a reduced budget. So that's
Yep.
a possibility too.
Thank you. And Bob,
I'm sorry to raise and lower. My
That's
question
okay.
keeps getting answered partially. I just want to emphasize the concept that I did not get until the last meeting when Dave described it to us, which is that if we send something non-bonded to the council, it's up to the council to use town funds and resources to do the bonding. If we send it to the council with our recommendation that the CPA be responsible for the bonding for the debt service, then it's our responsibility for that 10-year or whatever period moving forward. But the concept that I had not understood that I understand now is that to a degree, we're taking resources from the future by bonding something because it does diminish the capacity of CPAC in the future with respect to the resources available. I had not understood that. May not be that significant, but seems important to me.
Yes, thank you. And when you, with what Bob just said, when you look at the debt schedule that we have, you go, oh, when you look, out 10 years, you see the amount that is devoted from future CPAC dollars to projects that have been approved. So that is an important piece. And we'll go through all of this. I don't want to take up too much more time. But I think what I'll do is I'll put Leah, when we talk tomorrow, I'll just put a few of these bullets in an email with the spreadsheets so that you have all that in advance. And Ellen,
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about a deadline. I know we've marked off the 15th and 22nd on our calendar. So does it have to be absolutely decided everything on the 22nd? Because it sounds like we have more proposals than ever before.
no, it's I mean, we have to get this to the town council, have it approved before July 1. It's like, but no, we need to do it before then. But yeah, no, we don't have to have it completed by January 22nd. But it would be good if we came close to that or yeah, nearby. Yeah, well, we'll just see. We'll see what the 15th, how that unfolds and go from there. Great. Well, I don't think, Leah, we need to show the big spreadsheet. We've seen that before.
Okay.
And we can share that or screenshot it for the email. All right, great. It does look like the next item is to approve minutes. And these are the minutes from, oh my gosh, I've lost it now, December 4th, is that right?
Yes.
Thank
December
you.
4th.
So I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments on the minutes, changes? Okay, and then we'll do a roll call vote on the minutes. I've motion to approve the minutes as presented and seconded. And I will start with Ellen,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Jonas,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Robin. Oh, you're muted.
Thought I undid that. Aye.
And Tim.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. I'm an aye, and so those minutes are approved. Thank you. Now we have to find someone who has not yet done any minutes to take the minutes for this evening. Is there anyone who has not?
I don't believe I have.
Jonas, you haven't?
I don't think so.
Jason, you did last week, is that right? Yeah,
That's correct.
thank you. So Jonas, is that an
Yeah,
offer?
and is it possible to get the transcript at the end? I think I can save it. I see an option to save it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just a good starting point. So I'm not. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, yep, yep. My apologies. I didn't put that in my notes to start off with that, but you will have the recording as well. Tim.
Yeah, I have not done minutes yet, and I am going to propose I can do the 15th. I just am
Thank you.
hesitant up to this point because I'm still recovering from my surgery, and I should be fine on the 15th, but
Thank you.
we'll see.
Well,
So far, good progress.
okay, good. Great. Well, let's hope that continues, and I appreciate you offering, and then we know ahead of time. So thank you. Great. All right, so we'll move now to public comment. I just wondered if those who are in attendance, we have a few who are presenting, but I wondered if those who are in attendance who wish to speak during public comment could just raise their hand just so we could get a sense of how many wish to speak. That would be helpful. If any. So if you're here to listen, great. And if you're here as a presenter, wonderful. But if you'd like to speak during our public comment section of the agenda, please raise your hand so we have a sense. Not, oh, I have one. No, is that right?
It went away, but we can try.
Okay, so it looks like we do have one. If you could just state your name and where you live. I don't have the name, it just says iPad.
Hi, I'm not sure actually what the public comment part is, but my name is Margaret Orlep, and I'm part of the Mill River History Trail presentation.
Oh, great. Okay. Oh, so yes, if you're a presenter, we'll call on you in the order we have that written up. But public comment is the opportunity for anyone in the public to make a statement about any one of the projects being proposed.
I understand. Okay, yes, actually, me and Brian will be making our presentation. And
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it, Margaret. Yeah. Okay. Do you see anyone else, Leah? I don't
No,
see
I
any
don't
other
think
hands
so.
raised. Okay. Well, then we should move along, and I apologize, I don't have printed out the order in which you had it on the agenda. Is the first one the Jones Library? Terrific.
Yes.
So maybe we move Margaret.
Can we,
Oh,
recuse myself from this discussion?
Robin is recusing herself, that's right.
So I will join you after.
Okay, thank you very much. Tim, your hand is raised. I don't know if
It
that's
is.
intentional. Okay, go.
It is purposely raised.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, good.
Okay. I just wanted to have a disclosure. I was part of the fundraising team for the Jones Library as they were in their early stages. I'm no longer on that team, but just for full disclosure, I do not feel I need to recuse myself, but just for disclosure, I wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. And Lee, I think there are two people in our panelists that don't need to be here, and then we could bring in, is it Kent and Sharon? I'm not sure who else from Jones.
I'm assuming we're going to start with Sharon.
Yeah, Sharon and Kent Ferber, I think. I could be wrong, but I thought both of those but I think iPad can move back out. Greetings, Sharon. Welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Oh,
Thank you for
good.
having us.
Yes, it's good to have. Are you joined by anyone else to
Yeah, let me
present?
check out. So Bob Parent, Hicks G is George. Josephine Penta is from Feingold Alexander, and Kent Ferber.
So will all of those, everyone will be speaking?
Yes.
Speaking, answering questions, yes.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you, Sharon, for being here, and welcome to all the presenters.
Thank you, thank you. Kent is
so-
going to start when he
Oh, okay. I got it.
gets
All right.
let in. I'm
Once
sorry.
we get him in. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
We weren't sure who was starting, but I just as a reminder to all presenters, and I'll say this each time, and maybe I'll wait till Kent is here so he hears it. Do you see him, Leah?
Yep.
Great, there. Okay, here he's coming. Okay. So we have about 20 minutes in total for each presentation. So we usually ask presenters to try to keep the presentation as best they can to, 7 minutes-ish, so we have enough time for questions. So welcome, Ken. I hear you're the first to go, so take it away.
Thank you very much. Sharon, is Jim Alexander in
Jim
there?
is
Yes.
here.
Yes.
Leah, can you let Josephine in? Josephine Penta?
And Jim.
And
Jim
Jim
is-
is with us.
Jim is here.
Oh, he's already
Well,
on. Great.
I
He's
just-
the expert. He's the expert.
Oh, thank you.
You didn't ask for Eugene, did you?
No,
No. Oh,
that's it. That's the gang. Thank you.
okay, great.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for letting us make a presentation and for your willingness to tackle what's obviously going to be a tough session with much more being asked than you have to give away. What we'd like to do tonight is I'd like to say a few introductory remarks, and then I'd like to turn it over to Jim and Josephine to describe in more detail exactly what we're trying to do with this project. I think our application is replete, speaks for itself. There's a lot of information in there, along with the answers we gave to your questions. Basically, we're seeking help for a small part of a much larger project, renovating and expanding the downtown Jones Library. And by the way, this is not a town project. I see it was listed that way. The building is owned by the Jones Library Incorporated, which was the corporation that was formed to receive the bequest from Samuel Minot Jones back in 1921. I thought it might be helpful just for me at the beginning to say a few things that maybe distinguish this project. First and foremost, of course, we think the historic preservation we're doing here is really, really important for the town. It's an unusually valuable and beautiful part of the town's infrastructure that we're trying to save here, and it's right at the town's center. Secondly, despite the static you may have heard, I think you'll receive few historic preservation applications that have had this much exposure and support. And I'm not just talking about letters or public comment. I'm referring to which we've mastered hundreds of times over more than a dozen public meetings of all kinds. But in 2021, 3,000 residents of the town of Amherst voted in favor of the project of which this is part. Unheard of 65% of those who voted. That's in addition to the something like 600 families who've already contributed to it. So this is a project that comes with a huge amount of public support. Amherst wants this project. I think a few historic preservation projects have this kind of extraordinary visibility. If you're interested in funding something that's going to be present to literally hundreds of thousands of people on a daily basis, that will help demonstrate the value of historic preservation. I don't think you'll find a project that serves that purpose better. Fourth, the project is not only shovel ready, it's started. And it's been prescribed within an inch of its life down to the most minute detail, including a schedule. What you're going to fund is what you've seen, what we're presenting for you to fund is what you're going to get with this project. Fifth, yes, this is a large amount we're asking for, but this is a large project. And it's because it's a large, it is a large ask because historic preservation is expensive. We understand that. It would have been a lot less expensive for us to tear the building down and start over from scratch. But this project is devoted to historic preservation, and we're spending a lot of money to preserve some important historic assets of the town that are really important to it. And so we hope you'll help us do that. And sixth, finally, we're making a monumental effort to keep the town's commitment to this project. That what was started out actually 7 years ago, $15.8 million, by raising what has continued to be an escalated amount because of inflation and then the withdrawal of the Doge's withdrawal of our $1 million NEH grant. We're more than halfway there, but we need all the help we can get. And you should know that we're doing that so that we don't ask more from you more than a small fraction of the cost of what we're planning to do in the way of historic preservation here. So unless anybody has any questions for me right away, why don't we turn the screen over to Jim and Josephine to show you what we're talking about here.
Great. Right.
Thank you, Ken.
Hey,
Share my screen. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yeah, yes, there we go. I'm going to go to the enlarge element. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great, great. Well, I think Ken has summed up a lot of the discussion very nicely, and I think that's important. I think the three things we just want to show you a little more that are important deal with the interior millwork, exterior trim and repair, and the windows themselves. One of the aspects of the millwork, and we'll start with that, is to really, because we have to make certain changes, obviously, in the interior to satisfy the requirements of a contemporary library program. So making those changes, one of the things that we are now going to do is retain a number of trim pieces, some of which are kind of a rare Philippine mahogany, but all of which have a very nice sense of detail for the entire original library building. And as part of the memorandum of understanding, we are now going to be keeping parts, some of which originally we were maybe not going to keep, just in the interest of cost. So you'll see the first item on the left, well, of course, with the Whipple window, we're keeping and relocating so that that will be part of the interior, trying to, again, maintain the consistency of the detailing inside of the rooms, some of which will be somewhat changed. So the window will be kept and relocated. You see then a very elaborate surround around the doorway and the entries to one of the rooms in the library itself. This will also be kept and relocated. Of course, the main feature, which is significant in setting up the detail, is the interior of a main stair. So all of the main stair, the balustrade, the trim, all of that will be kept in place, which really sets the tone, I think, for the interior. So in terms of preservation and restoring and keeping these elements, this is absolutely critical, I think, as part of the historic fabric. There are smaller areas, which you see with the other sketches, the very handsome pilasters on the sides of these entranceways, the arch, the transom windows. All of these things are really critical to maintaining this kind of historic character, even if some of the rooms are somewhat changed. Remember, the majority of the woodwork that's existing is being kept anyway. That was part of the original plan. These added elements come from the desire to really make the interiors feel consistent as requested by the MOA and Mass Historic, and as well as Amherst Historic as well. You see two other elements, one of the this bookcase area along the wall and the another room there, another sense of very nice detailing. The entranceway, another one of the arched entranceways. Again, you see that's setting up a theme which will carry out through the building. And then you have this very one with the exit sign with a very elaborate entablature over it. So again, setting up these framed entrances to different rooms and different spaces, even though the rooms may be somewhat changed, we have a real chance here through some fairly, expensive relocating and reusing to maintain a consistency throughout the interior of the original building. I think that's pretty much the interior aspects. The exterior trim, again, we're dealing with, some very complicated elements. At the entry on the entry pilasters, side pilasters, a number of places, you see these very elaborate sense of detail. This all now really has to be stripped carefully back to the original wood, refinished, repaired in many cases. Some places we will have to introduce what we call a Dutchman, which is a repair in place, a new piece added, which will match exactly the original. The main entry, we do have to make, in the interest of accessibility, some small changes to this, but basically, I think most people will think it's exactly what was there. The base of the pilasters will be extended so that we can actually make an accessible entrance at the main entry. But the elaborate detail, the pineapple, the wonderful scroll work at the top, all of that will be restored, repainted, refinished, and will look like new. And same with another one of the entry capitals. And you see around the windows, we are replacing the windows with a great deal of window trim. Some sill pieces will have to be patched and matched to the existing, which will be done throughout the historic building. And then we have these special cases, the small extensions on the side, again, that are deteriorating. In some cases, pieces will be replaced entirely to match the existing. And again, you see the window heads and the extension on the soffits, which is in very bad condition, which will have to be replaced. And then the last item, of course, was the windows. Windows originally in the original program were going to simply be kept. And that was often desirable to keep an existing piece of fabric. And looking at them more carefully and also meeting with the Mass Historic, I think everyone agreed the windows were in such shape that energy-wise, efficiency, it would just be rather foolish to keep those existing windows and storm windows, which is a very awkward situation. So in terms of preservation of the window, we're installing completely new windows, matching the proportions, the outline, the mullions, the muntins, all of which will match the existing, as well as its location on the facade in terms of its depth from the facade and the depth of the sill and the interior. So again, all new windows, which is a major upgrade as part of the Mass Historic and the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, and is going to really turn the building, is going to really benefit from getting rid of the storm windows and having a real insulated glass window matching the original. So those are I think, three basic things that we are talking about as we ask you for your support in completing this exciting preservation project. And it has been about 7 years, and it's exciting that it's actually going to happen now, and this extra bit of intention will help us, I think, to make the feeling of the library when it's finished, the feeling of the original building, very compatible throughout. So thank you.
Thank you, Jim. This is Katie, just noting
Yes.
that I don't know if we're if anyone else is speaking, but we are sort of at the 12-minute
Oh,
mark, and I want to
sorry.
make sure that I just want to make sure that we have enough time for questions as I'm anticipating
fine.
them. But are there other any other parts of the present. I don't want to cut you off in any way, just
No, this is
noting the time.
This is fine. I think we've covered it. Happy to answer any questions if they're directed
Okay,
to me.
great. Oh, awesome. Okay, terrific. I thought there might be more. So that I really appreciate the presentation and the thorough approach that you all have brought to this. I think we may need to go back to the slides, but Lena, if we could go back to the gallery view just so we can ask questions, that would be great. If we need to go back to slides, we will. Did you, Jim, did you have others?
No,
slides?
no,
Okay,
no, that's
all right,
fine.
great.
Nope.
Okay, well, I will open up to the committee for their questions. And we'll start with Jonas.
Hi there. I noticed I was browsing the application that's on the website. I thought I saw something about the slate roof. Was that not part of this ask?
No, that is not part of the ask. We have built that into the basic budget, even though it put quite a strain on us because originally we had thought we would not have the original slate back. But part of the memorandum with Mass Historic requires the slate to be restored, and we will be doing that.
Okay, and then just one question on like looking at any ways to, economize. You mentioned the windows are going to be kind of recreated even down to the detail of what like the panes and is that adding a lot of expense? Because I wonder if someone who was not aware of this building, a visitor to the town, would notice a difference between the windows are going to be new.
Right.
How important is it that all those details be kept for the uninformed who just would look at that window and say, wow, a beautiful window, it looks perfect. And it cost half of maybe what the window you're proposing, for instance.
In fact, we sort of had started out thinking we might be able to, well, actually, the first start was to repair what's there, which, is a detriment in a way when you look at the building and you see these storm windows on the outside, which sort of obscures the real detail of the window. That is a problem. And when we got into really working on this, the Mass Historic Commission and others decided we really needed to, and energy-wise too, because the windows trying to repair, add weather stripping and all of that is never going to make a window like a new insulated double glazed window. So while the public might not see it, I think in terms of the historic character of the building, Mass Historic was concerned that we really needed to replace those windows. So,
well, I understand you need to replace them, but they need to be replaced.
Oh, yeah.
Detail of the historic, and that to me, I don't.
Yeah, in the memorandum of understanding, it's yes. If we replace them, they have to match the original 1920s windows. I mean, that's part of the regulation of theirs.
I thought maybe there was an exception, like if it was economically infeasible, but like another panelist said that. I'm not an expert on historic preservation, but that was.
Yeah, no, I'm afraid we're kind of up against it as far as I know at this point. We've tried, the contractors were shopping around to find who can repair and make these windows. There are not a huge amount of people who can, so that we're kind of tight we're stuck kind of with the budget, I'm afraid.
Thanks, Jonas. Kent, did you want to add to that particular part of
Yes, just quickly, the slate roof would have been a normal subject of application, except that you have a requirement that the work can't be started by July 1, and they're working on the roof already. And the replacement of the windows was insisted upon by the Amherst Historical Commission.
As well. Yeah.
It's a major item of request.
Thank you. Bob.
Is it imperative that you use Philippine mahogany?
No. That there is Philippine mahogany on the interior now. And we'll be matching, some of the replacement pieces will match and stain that, but we'll not have to use the actual wood, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason.
Hi, thank you, everybody, for the presentation. One of the questions previously asked, in the initial question asking round was about the work being part of the initial $46.1 million budget. And the answer was that it was, it's not separate from the capital campaign. Can you explain that, can you explain the rationale behind asking for more town money than what was already borrowed? And then it sounds like some of these expenses were discovered, came up after the fact. Were these things not known when the initial capital campaign started? So how are they not included? It says they're included, but you're asking for money from the town. How did it work out that way?
Well,
I'm,
do you want to take this, Kent? Or?
There's two questions there. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not clear what the questions are. Yes, the $46 million budget requires us to raise roughly $15 million. And we're looking at all the available sources. And yes, that's in addition to the town's general revenue contribution of 15 million, but that's completely separate and different from what you have available. That is, getting more money from the town would raise people's taxes. Competing for the funds you have available does not. Whether you give us a grant or not doesn't change people's taxes. We have to raise this money, and your grant making process is available to anybody who has a project that qualifies, like any other grant maker, foundation or otherwise, has money available. So we've applied on that basis. I'm not sure that answers your question, but the best I understand it.
I think the other question was around whether these particular expenses were known or unknown at the time. Is that right, Jason, at the time of creating the project?
Yeah, I've heard a statement about, originally the slate roof wasn't going to be original, and then the windows were going to be saved, but now they can't be. Amherst Historical Society wants to say so. Were these things not hashed out? It seems like they weren't hashed out, and I'm just looking for confirmation of that prior to the budget being set.
Some of them were hashed out, but a few developed afterwards as a result of a lengthy deliberation process with the Mass Historic Commission. But we've been able to cover, we think we can cover those additional expenses with a contingency built into the original $46 million budget. That's how we arrive at the amount we have to raise. Includes a contingency that we expect to cover not only those items that were added as a result of that lengthy regulatory process, but also are discovered as you go into a almost 100-year-old building and find what you find. I think at the moment, and Sharon can talk about this, is Bob Parent in particular is part of the building committee. We think it looks like that we can stay within that $46 million budget, but we have to raise the balance beyond what the 15.8 million committed by the town and the 15.8 million committed by the Mass Board of Library Commissioners.
Thank you, Ken. And I just to underscore Jason's question about we don't have anything in our criteria or guidelines that say that you can't come, that an entity couldn't come and request money, even if they've received money, or can't request it each year, like the town could request and others request money frequently. So we don't have that criteria at the moment or in the guidelines. Just to underscore, and we're a little over, but Ellen, I would love to entertain your question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A quick question. I know several museums have had their NEA and NEH grants fully replaced or reinstated. So I'm wondering if any effort has been made to get your NEH, if you've appealed at all to try to get that $1 million funding back.
Unfortunately, we were at the stage where the letter stated directly there is no appeal. We had received notification of the award, but no agreement had been signed. In part, that was because the historic preservation review hadn't been completed, but there was no possibility of review. That doesn't mean that we don't hope somewhere down the line with a new administration to get this money after all, because we went through a very lengthy process, and this was a national competition in which we received the largest grant. But at the moment, there is no prospect of appeal.
Okay, great. Jonas, you have a
Just one point of clarification. I think
Yeah.
you mentioned this has nothing to do with taxes, but I believe CPAC comes from a local property tax surcharge. And I don't remember the number, but I think a big proportion is that, and that the state proportion is the matching is not as big. So it's not coming from. So if I'm a homeowner, and also I guess if I'm a landlord, I'm probably passing that tax surcharge to my tenants. So it's not obviously free money. So just to
It's definitely from our taxes, this money, but it's not an increase in tax if we were to.
not an increase, but
Yeah.
it
It was early on, yeah.
it's a tax. So
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Great. Well, we are at time, but Sharon, you had your hand up, and I didn't know if you had anything else to add. I'm happy to give you the final word.
No, that's very nice. No, I was, so much
Yes.
going on in my
I
head.
know, I know.
At the end of the day, this project it's $46.1 million, and the contingency was reduced when we had to add more money for historic preservation, and that is awesome. I mean, what Ken said in his opening statement about how important historic preservation is to this project, it can't be overstated. And so the 106 process did what it was supposed to do. It involved the community, and we got more out of it because of it. And the more out of it means it's going to be more expensive. And so this is a capital campaign request because we do have to raise another $7 million. And we are going to be asking everybody and their brother, including all of you in this Zoom room, please donate. I don't know, it's, one of your criteria had to do with the number of people that will be, that will benefit from this project. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people will be walking through our doors, already did walk through our doors, and now that's going to double. It's just, that's what happens when libraries go through these expansion, renovation, building projects. And so it's going to, add to the downtown economy. It is, and it's happening. This isn't whether or not it's going to happen. It is happening right now. And we're excited about it. And yes, as Jim said, we hope for your support. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you all. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Jim and Josephine and Kent. Appreciate all of you being here and appreciate your time putting this presentation together.
Great.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, so onward to the industrial history of the Mill River proposal, which is the recreation, is under recreation, and I am not sure who is that Brian?
I think it's Brian. I'm going to let him in and then remove everyone else.
Okay, great, thanks. And Robin, just to note that Robin is back. Okay, Brian, are you the greetings, welcome. Are you the sole presenter for this project?
No, we have Margaret Orlup out there somewhere. I think she was coming in on
Oh
the
yeah,
phone.
Margaret, I see her there. She had said that.
She came in an unmarked iPad earlier, and I think
Yes,
that booted
yes.
up. She's back now with a name.
I see her.
And we would also have expected to have Meg Gage with us tonight. Meg is the president of the District 1 Neighborhood Association and one of the organizers of this from the beginning. But she had her hip replaced a few hours ago, so we are not expecting her to join us. But we will be happy to carry on.
Thank you. Well, wishing her speedy recovery, and it looks like Margaret is in the room. And so we'll just, as I mentioned earlier, thank you for your patience too. I know we're a little bit later than we anticipated, but if you keep the presentation, in the 5 to 7, 8, 9 minute range, then we'll have a chance for questions after from the committee members.
Yeah, and I know we're occupying theoretically 2 slots here for the 2 different proposals. We consolidated this presentation for the 2 of them, so we can do that. And then
okay,
open as much space as you want.
you're presenting for both.
For both, yeah. Does that make sense?
I didn't realize that. Got it. Okay, great. Well, that's helpful. So your presentation is for both?
Yes.
Yes. Well, would it be all right to do one and then have questions and then do the next one in some way, or no?
Well, the presentation is going to be background for both of them, so we didn't want to be redundant. So we're
got it. Okay, yeah, fine.
So we'll get to the end of that, and there'll be lots of questions,
terrific.
lots of change.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Brian.
Great.
Go right ahead.
And Margaret is our consulting historian on this project. Has been since the last year or so. Has been doing a wonderful job, and we would not be here without her. Let me switch to screen sharing here and see where this puts us. Hold on. Let's see if I can get this to start. Getting rid of Zoom. Don't need to here. Okay. Everybody see that? Are we on the air? Yes. Okay. So, because not everybody lives in North Amherst, I just wanted to give a quick reconnoiter of what we're talking about here. So here's North Amherst. Over here is the corner where the church and the school and so forth are down here. Here's Pupper's Pond, and then up here is Bridge Street going across. So it's really, the Mill River comes in way up in the corner by Leverett and goes out into Hadley and really cuts across the whole of North Amherst. And here's the system of trails that conservation trails that the town operates. All this light green stuff is the conservation land, and over here we have the Mill River Recreation Area. So you can see that this whole corridor is basically a conservation and recreation area, and there's not much else in there right now, which is sort of the rationale for what's going on here. It was not always like this. For quite a long period of time, this area was known as Factory Hollow. And this map happens to be from 1856, but you can see there's already a lot going on here. Up by the bridge, a very active location. There were a series of different mills early on, grist mills and so forth, that went on to become all kinds of industrial facilities. And in fact, that spot right there, that yellow star is showing, turns out to be one of the busiest spots in this entire area. And then down the river, you had paper mills, some of the Roberts paper mills in that area between Puffers and the bridge. And then right below Puffers, there was a very intensive area of industrial activity. And even all the way down on, this is just about where Meadow Street comes into the 116 bypass. And you wouldn't know it today, but that was at one time another industrial area. So this is currently a very bucolic spot, but was a beehive of activity for a long time. And here's 1873. You can see it all again. This big area down below, a reservoir, or a mill pond that no longer exists, but was there for many, many years and rivaled Puffer's Pond in size. That was the Jones or the Cushman mill pond. Then you have Puffers and all that activity below there. And again, back over what was called Westville. So this area, which is now very, very quiet and calm, was once extremely busy. By the way, you may notice they show here the Massachusetts Central Railroad going across right in front of the bridge, the dam at Puffer's Pond, which of course it doesn't. This is an interesting feature that we discovered because they were going to build this railroad, and then Never did, but it got onto the map. This all began way back. This is the earliest map of Amherst, 1794. And at that time, the river ran through here. There were very few roads. So this is sort of Pine Street, sort of going up to Market Hill. But there were 2 grist mills. That was it along the river. The first one was probably there from 1727. This is an agricultural community. But this all got started for us because, you know, some of us living up in North Amherst took an interest in some of the ruined foundations that we saw. And DONA, the District 1 Neighborhood Association, organized the project. And we got 2 earlier exploratory CPA grants. I don't know, maybe Bob, maybe you were involved way back at the beginning. We had those in the fiscal year 23 and 24. And we've also done quite a bit of private fundraising. And on the strength of that, here's what we found. We got interested because you walk along the bridge, you walk along the trail up here just north of east of Puffers, and you look over the edge and you see some stuff. Something was obviously there. Because of our first round of research, we've discovered that stuff is what we call the Roberts Lower Mill. That was actually the Daniel Rose paper mill. Those stones were set in 1795, and there was a paper mill there for a long period of time, using rag paper. You keep going up the river a little bit, and you'll see yet another something or other, which turned out to be another Roberts Mill. This is the Roberts Upper Mill, a much more substantial operation, and that operated for a long time also. But that's about all there is left to see, right? This is not an area that has a lot of ruins or foundations or stuff you can see, and yet the activity was there. And 3 years later now, we have found, this is sort of the situation we're in, far more than we ever anticipated. We're now trying to make what we found available to the community, and to do that, we've got the 2 sections of this. The first project is to complete the historical survey, and that means putting together all of this evidence that we found, again, far more than we ever anticipated. And then on the basis of that, sharing with the community through a website and trail project as you go along that beautiful corridor of currently preserved and town-controlled land. So in the first survey, this is all we were looking at. All we knew about were these 2 little paper mills up here, and the the grist mill that's on Montague Road that's still there, has a sign on it. That's what we knew about. That's what we looked at. But in the second survey, we discovered, we knew there had been an ice business at Puffer's Pond, and we knew that there had been some sort of paper factory activity up here by the bridge. And so that's what the original CPA money got us going with, to look at this. But in the process of looking at all of this, we found a few more things. And we'll let that sink in, because it's sort of mind-boggling. But this was an area that had, between 1727 and 1920, there are 18 locations where mills or factories are constructed, at least 26 different structures and 69 different businesses. They did everything from grinding grain to fabricating wood products and paper making and textile production. This is a story that we hear bits and pieces of, but no one has actually ever told it in its entirety. And we now believe we've completed the research necessary to tell that story. I just want to give you one example of one of those locations, because not only are there a lot of them in space and a lot of them over time, but each one of those sites went through various iterations. This place right here started out as a cotton mill, then it became a paper mill, and then it was a woodworking and planing mill for many, many years. In fact, here it is. This is the graves. They made doors and moldings and boxes. So it wasn't just an old sawmill. And here it is right here. That is the last of the Factory Hollow Mills. This burned in 1940. This is on Summer Street. You can see why we don't have a lot of these buildings left there. So many of them were wood. So as we look here, it means we had these things scattered all over the landscape, across time and across industries. This is something we put together just to allow ourselves to figure out what's going on. And this is organized by the industries. So you can see at the top, we had the agricultural activities like grist mills and sawmills. And then down here, we begin to see the more industrial stuff. Here's the paper. Here are the textiles. Down here's the wood planing operations. And if you kind of simplify that, we began to see certain questions emerging. We began to be looking for patterns here, and there's some different things going on. So one question we asked was kind of simple. For example, why did a farmer with no business experience build a cotton factory in the wilderness? And I mean the wilderness. This is an 1830 map, and even at that time, there was nothing but a couple of grist mills and one of those paper mills. And yet this was the Ebenezer Dickinson cotton factory, constructed right there below Puffer's Pond. It wasn't as big as Puffer's Pond, as this map would show, and it wasn't lying on its side, but it was 80 feet by 30 feet, 3 stories high. It was a substantial edifice. Why was something like that there to begin with? This is the beginning of the industrial era on the river. And the answer, of course, is very simple. It was Napoleon, by which we mean this was the period of the Napoleonic Wars, the global conflict between Great Britain and France. Great Britain, in order to keep its fleet staff, would impress U.S. citizens and make them sailors in the Royal Navy. We probably all learned that in high school. And that was a big deal. And the United States at that time had only 6 warships and couldn't exactly complain militarily, but they did put in place the 1806 Non-Importation Act and especially the 1807 Embargo Act, which stopped the importation of European manufactured goods to the United States. And what this did was create overnight a demand for a domestic textile manufacturing business. And so, although we can't be certain that this is why he was doing it, it seems quite likely that Ebenezer Dickinson, like people all over New England, started to go into the cotton factory business because of this outside force. So it's a fascinating thing to look at. Another question, how did this paper industry survive and prosper for so long? 130 years we had paper mills along the river. This is the one we looked at a minute ago, the earliest one. This was the Cushman Old Mill way up on East Leverett Road. This is the Cushman Red Mill, which was right at the corner of State Street and Bridge Street, where that yellow star was earlier. This was a big operation that was there for many, many years. One of the ways they did it is that the paper industry in our neck of the woods didn't try to compete with bulk wood pulp paper coming out in rolls. It was all specialty. Every bit of paper made in Amherst, in North Amherst, was a niche. So in this particular case, they would do leather board, maybe grinding up leather and rope and who knows what, or straw board, bruised straw, and they would make leather board that was used as insoles, and they would make wrapping paper out of the straw board. This, believe it or not, was on the same spot. This is taken about 1930, and that is the Amherst Waxed Paper Mill, which was actually operated out of Holyoke. They came up and bought these old paper mills and converted them. And down here's the Holyoke Carbon Paper Company. So this is the interesting story of paper making in Amherst being unlike really almost anywhere else. And if textiles came in, they rose and fall in just a few decades, even though paper went on for so long. And so this really puzzled us. Why the sudden activity, then it fell apart. And quickly, after the Treaty of Ghent was signed, European textiles came back in, so nobody built more textile factories here. Then there was the Panic of 1837, and the businesses that we had were actually, they failed several times. It was still limping along. But then the economic recovery after that, the gold rush of 49 threw capital into the American economy, the railroad bubble, and look, all of these textile factories were built on our river as part of this larger national economic context. Unfortunately, the Panic of 87 came along, the railroad bubble burst, the high inflation from the gold rush took its toll, and our places all closed. By the time the Civil War came along and places like Lawrence and Lowell were really taking off in terms of textiles, we were done. Amherst was done. And so we finally come to the big question, why did this all disappear? Not just economically, but there's nothing left. But so part of it is the river was just too small, a limited and seasonal flow. The capacity was very quickly exploited. Transportation was a problem. It was not navigable. There are a few nearby markets and supply chains, and the railroad didn't come to North Amherst till 1866. And at that point, it was all over. And the competition of these larger places on bigger rivers with better transportation, we simply couldn't compete with them. And the fact that we were not making pulp paper or high value textiles really undercut the competitive possibilities of our places. But also, fire and a little flood. Here's that 1809 Dickinson cotton mill. He put it in there. He didn't know what he was doing. Within a few years, he was bankrupt. His competitors were circling. He decided to skip town, but he decided he would take with him the proceeds of the factory. But word got out. The constable went to his house and in the attic found all the cotton yarn that he'd taken out of the factory. So the yarn stayed. Ebenezer Dickinson did skip town and went to Ohio. But as he left, he uttered a violent curse on Factory Hollow and all the mills to come. Now, do we believe this? It's hard to say. But it is a fact that shortly thereafter, his own building burned, and then Peter Ingram's fulling mill burned, and then the building that his creditors had built to replace the one that burned also burned. And then, over an extended period of time, the mills of North Amherst went up in flames. Now, in addition to that, we should note there was one flood. The Hills Palm Hat Factory got wiped out in the freshet of 1863. But this is one of the reasons that we do not see much left of any of these things except a few stone foundations. It's a fascinating story. These are just a few of the questions that have come up. And we found that the community is quite interested. We've had progress reports in the local press that people have been reading. Did a big presentation at the Amherst Historical Society History Bites. More people have watched the video. Did a presentation recently in Applewood. Did a guided walking tour along the trail just back a couple of weeks ago. People love this story, and it's a fascinating story. In order to tell it, we're trying to get the funding to bring it all together. And that is the first proposal to create the archive, and the second to develop the trail on the website. And for that, we're hoping to get additional CPA funding and also to continue our private fundraising. And this is not just asking for a handout, we're actually bringing a lot to the table with this. Certainly hundreds of hours of volunteer effort have already gone in and will continue. We've got great partnerships we've developed with the Amherst Historical Society and the Jones Library Special Collection, and families like the Puffers. Barbara Puffer has been terrific on this. And again, private fundraising, we've raised about 1/3 of total funding so far. Just want to point out that this is an entirely community-driven project, right? Just a bunch of people in the neighborhood. And it's kind of nice that this is something that CPA has been able to support, and we hope will continue to be able to support. That some of these projects that just sort of come up from interested people in the community. And finally, there's just a ton of tangible assets that come out of this. One is the trail project itself. When we talk about the historical survey, what we mean is this entire historical record that we've dug up will become available to the town, to the world actually, on Digital Amherst, which is the Jones Library Special Collections online resource, and they're very excited about it. Robin had asked us at the Historical Commission meeting about whether we could be helping to populate MACRIS, which is the Massachusetts Cultural Resource Information System. That's where the material on these historic things gets loaded up by the state. And the answer is absolutely. I just went and reviewed recently what's out there on Amherst now, and not only do we have more by far than you're going to find on North Amherst right now, but there's some things that are out there now I would not say completely fit the facts. So yes, foundation for follow-on projects, school curricula. We're introducing a few ideas here that other community groups may want to extend, and potentially even a model for other neighborhoods. We've run into people in other parts of town who would like to do a project like this. It'd be great to show them kind of the possibilities. So the last thing I will say is, although this is fascinating to us, we're also trying to make progress on some of the town's already stated goals. The master plan talks about promoting the preservation, appreciation, and use of our historic and cultural resources, wayfinding systems, and signage to mark historic districts, developing outreach tools, tours, print publications, websites to disseminate knowledge of Amherst history among the public. So these are community goals we're trying to support. And specifically, the open space and recreation plan talks about developing and improving the network of trails between neighborhoods, conservation and recreation lands, and commercial areas to mark historic districts, support historical and archaeological preservation and education efforts, and strategic connections between open space parks, recreation areas, village centers, and to create connections from the center of North Amherst to the Mill River Recreation Area. It's almost as if we had written this, but we didn't. And to promote broadened awareness of open space and recreational opportunities and explore public outreach and education opportunities, and even update mapping and make it available. And I should point out that from the very beginning, we've been using the base mapping we got from Aaron Jacques in the planning office so that everything we're doing can be easily incorporated into the town's GIS and mapping systems. So again, what we need more than anything is to keep the momentum going. It's taken 3 years to uncover the story, but it is difficult to sustain volunteer effort. Private donors need to feel that their investment is wise, that it's going somewhere. And honestly, if we walk away now, we're concerned that this will never really rekindle. So we're here. We know this is a terrible year to be coming, but we are hopeful that you'll be able to do something for us, and we are eager to hear what you have to say. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate the thorough presentation and all the info and all the work that you and others have been doing for so many years. I've been part of those 2 other grants, and
Right.
you've come a long way. I mean, it's amazing what you've done. So thank you. We'll entertain questions on either proposal now. We have a few minutes, so either one, and we will start with Robin.
Okay, I'm going to start right in on the survey part of the project. I want to start off by saying, what an incredible project this is. We saw it at the Historical Commission as well. As a fan of historic maps, I just love seeing historic maps. But I'm going to bring, that said, I'm going to bring back sort of the 2 issues that as Historical Commission rep, and after many years on the CPA, trying to figure out, so we have history, we have preservation. And because something has history doesn't mean it's preservation. But as I've learned over the course of time at CPA, studies to help the town manage its historic resources are considered an important part of historic preservation. So I think that we can make an argument for the research that's listed under this project, as long as it results in a product, like a report to the town. We talked about MACRIS inventory forms. Those would generally be for extant buildings that are still here on the landscape, or possibly ruins. I'm not as familiar with ruins, and also structures. Structures can also be documented, but anything that no longer exists on the physical landscape, if it's below, as well as if it's below ground, don't fall under the MACRIS system. So I'm not sure how many resources that is. And then I know there are line items for they fall under the term exhibits, which I had initially said, well, that's not an eligible activity, but it sounds more like the curation of a digital archive, which I think for talking about historic photographs and newspapers, that could definitely fall under the preservation of documentary materials. Archaeology is a little bit different. I know from, I've only been at MHC for a couple of years, but I know that the archaeology department is quite separate. So I'm not sure about that. I mean, I know that everything before us, the opinion of the town is that it's eligible. I would say that the second issue that we talked about is the budget, and I know that, Brian, I looked again at the answers to your questions, and there's some discussion of a $75 an hour fee for the historian, but $125,000 is a very large ask. And to give a comparative example, I work in the survey and planning department at MHC, and a project of 140 resources researched from start to finish with resulting inventory forms runs about $40,000. So there's a big difference there. So I think those are my, I don't know that they're questions so much. Well, the number of existing resources is one question, but concerns around what we're funding, how we make it, how we as a committee get a sense. If somebody comes before us to replace a slate roof, you get estimates from 3 different roofers. They fall within a certain, but to get a sense of what the products are, what you could expect to them to cost different historic preservation consultants. I think those are the thoughts and concerns that I have for this project, which is so fabulous. I just have to say it again, so fabulous.
I just make a couple of thoughts there because we have talked about this before. What I think should be evident to all by now is how surprised we were to discover how big the body of information here was. And so honestly, we priced this based on our best judgment, based on our experience over these last 3 years, and what it would take to do this whole thing correctly up to industry standards to make it available to the town for the future, so that this resource, this historical resource, which currently exists in boxes and people's heads and so forth, would actually be available. And you're right, Robin, I cannot disagree with you. It's a lot of money and it's a lot of work. Obviously, the time will come when we have to think about what we can do with the funds that we do have available, right? How much of this stuff can be mounted in the way that we hope to mount it? You can always, there's 2 ways that you can, we all face this problem. There's 2 ways you can control these costs. You can squeeze the amount of what you do, and you can expand it over time. And we're quite open to both of those things. We just wanted to begin by being quite candid about what it looks like to kind of get this project to where we think it could and ought to be, in whatever means we can do.
I wanted to add, Robin, to your question about the resources have to be above ground for the Macris editions. I assume that we would be adding to the district nominations and inventory sheets for North Amherst and Cushman, because a number of the mill owners, the paper mill owners particularly, but also Peter Ingram, a textile mill owner. Anyway, a number of the buildings in Cushman and North Amherst were the homes of the mill owners. So we can definitely add to those inventory sheets. And in addition, we can make the historical synopsis in the nominations much fuller. These mills were an important part of the transition of the economy of North Amherst and Cushman from a barter based on, I'll trade you a butternut squash for that bolt of cloth. They were an important part of the transition from barter to cash, to using money and having one set price for goods. So in that sense, they're an important piece. It's, that just couldn't be included or was not included in the district nomination. So my point is that we can add quite a lot because there are above ground resources that are related to the mills, which of course are no longer.
Yeah. Actually, let me just piggyback on what Margaret said, because I just went and today looked at the Cushman Village National Register documentation, and it's full of either mill owners' homes or factory workers' housing. It's full of these things, and there's very little context actually in there. And I was a little chagrined to discover that some of the context that is there, I would not say under today's understanding is exactly correct. So I think there are a lot of ways in which this can, really bolster the town's documentary record.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Those are really great points that you're not just documenting single buildings, but and you're absolutely right. One of the things that we address at MHC is the need to update inventory forms because the standards in 1985 were about 4 sentences, and the standards now are about
Yeah.
2 to 3 pages minimum, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think and I don't know if I speak for my other committee members, but from what would be helpful for us to see is the list of which macros forms
hmm
impacted by the study, because that would give us, some
Okay.
deliverable. And of course, the narrative history and the cultural context for the
Yeah.
area would be another deliverable. Those are things that would be really useful. The other thing I
Mhm.
wanted to ask is that do you have to keep the momentum going, we'd ask this of other projects, do you have sections of this that you think, if your award had to be limited, would it be the digitizing of resources? Would it be the updating of those macros forms, that sort of thing?
Right. So since we had this conversation earlier, we've really been thinking about this. Let me just share something that kind of gets to this. Let me see if I can find it here. So in terms of the funding thing, we've been thinking about this in terms of this being a tight year and so forth, and certainly carrying over some of this to the future to another CPA cycle or fundraising can happen. As we all know, one of the problems is that means the money for the next CPA cycle wouldn't exist for another 18 months, which is certainly a factor in our thinking about momentum. But yeah, some of these things, as you just said, Robin, some of these things can be stretched out. They have a sort of logical sequence. One thing, the signage and the publications and so forth is one of those things. One thing I just want to mention, I don't have the answer, but I know Dave's on the line here. Maybe he has a perspective. One of our strategies here is to try to piggyback or to integrate with the town's signage project that has already got CPA funding, and we don't want to delay what we're doing so long that we lose the ability to do that. I don't know how to deal with that exactly, but it is a consideration. And obviously, we remain committed to fundraising, but the CPA money is sort of what provides the stimulus for that. But I will say, I'm taking this seriously. If you break down what we're asking for into the big categories, which is the documentation, the website, and the installation of the physical stuff, right? Yes, some of these things can be put in different places in this cycle. As I said, the main issue is we would love to be able to launch this thing in the spring of 27, right? That's a long time from now, but it's probably the first time we'd be able to do it. It's just hard. It's hard to think about going another year beyond that. That's so far in the future. But yes, it could be done. And if it would be a help to the group, we could try to figure out how to plot some of these costs across a different time frame. So I just offer that.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. I going to Bob next.
Brian, thanks. That was really fascinating stuff. And I'm sorry we don't have more time and we really are running very late here. Very quick question. What would be helpful, I think, for our group is to use a bad analogy here, put a moat around this. What you've described is sort of a Vietnam project. All the quagmire. There's just so much information and sort of defining how much it's going to take to complete this and what the CPAC ask might be in the future would be very helpful because it sounds somewhat boundless right now, and I just want to make sure that for the committee's purpose, it's not.
Yeah, absolutely. If you think it feels boundless to you, you should be sitting on this side of the camera. But the truth of it is that we feel as if we've knocked down the historical research. We now know what's there. So there's a couple of natural boundaries here, Bob. One of them is, even though the river goes across the whole of the northern part of town, the trail doesn't. So we're going to be, obviously, a lot of the cost will be for signage and other things that are just in that central part, which goes from about the bridge down to the grist mill. So you can follow that. So The other thing is, in terms of the extent to which this documentation occurs, you know, when we can't tell every story, fascinating though it may be. And so I think part of what we're doing here is trying to create enough hooks so that people could come along in the future and pursue some of these things. We can introduce some ideas, but we are definitely, you're absolutely right, not going to be able to tell every story.
Thank you. Since we combined these two proposals and we're sort of a combined time of about 40 minutes, we still have 5 more minutes, and it looks like we have 2 more questions for sure. So, Tim, you are up.
Thank you. I'm missing the recreation piece. At the
Oh.
beginning of the meeting, I think it was said that this project is going to be moved from historic preservation to recreation in terms of our CPAC categories.
There's 2
And I didn't hear any,
projects.
pardon me?
There's 2 projects. One is the trail.
Well, one is 85,000 and one is
Mhm.
105. Which is which?
The 85 is the first, the 105 is the historical survey.
That's the survey.
Yes. And the
Okay.
85 is the signage and the trail, you know, the sort of more physical part of it.
Brian, is that 105 or 125? There's a typo in there
Oh,
somewhere.
yeah.
It is
I think,
105.
right. I don't actually have it in front of me, but yes, I think in our responses, we pointed out that that was a typo. So,
So it's 125
yeah, it's what's in
for the
the,
research. Yeah. Okay.
yes.
Okay, so everything you talked about in your very fine presentation was not recreation at all. It was all the historic survey. And I just don't understand. I really don't understand what the 85,000 request is for recreation.
Right. So this was the, this is the, so this is, so here's that area again, right? And you can
Yeah.
see in the 2 ends, the 2 the 2 historic districts and so forth. So the trail part of this, the recreation part of this is passive recreation, utilizing these trails. The website is what's in the background. And in the foreground, if you're actually physically there, would be these kiosks and QR markers. So these big stars, there's a few places where we would have something substantial, where you would have, you know, a larger guide to the project and you would have more information. And then right along the trail itself, the Concom has been very concerned that they don't want, you know, super highways going through there. They're not big on having big signs, but we can do this with very modest, you know, standards that allow you to point your phone at it and get the whole story coming at you as you go along. So this is where a lot of the expense, Tim, you're talking about on the recreation is. It's in the website and all of these physical markers that are going to, you know, guide people through it.
Okay, because I think before we make our final decisions here, we need to understand how this is related to the request from the town for their recreation conservation signs
Yes.
that we are being requested and how they dovetail, who's asking for what, et cetera, et cetera. And I just need some clarity. Who does that? I'm not sure, but we need to, at least I, as one committee member, need some clarity on that. So.
Tim,
Yeah, we do too. We do too. And we've been talking to Dave from the beginning, but I'll let him.
All right, fair enough.
well, I think what we'll do is we'll put that, I'm going to put a pin on that to get back to that, Tim, so that we'll have
Great.
that for the next
Great. We
meeting.
don't need to do that tonight. That's fine.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Thank you for that question, though. We do need some clarity there. And Jason, you're up.
Thanks, Katie. Thank you, Brian. Somewhat related to what Tim was asking, that Brian, you have that slide stating that you were wanting to launch, you know, in 27, and you have a website, and there was a number of things there.
Yeah.
What
you want me to bring that back?
You can, or you if you want to.
I've lost my video, so maybe I can't. Go ahead.
What is it that when you say launch?
Mm-hmm.
what is it that you need to actually launch, or that you think you need to launch it? Is it a full finished website
Yeah.
and all the signs with corresponding QR codes and the
Yeah.
kiosks, or what?
Yeah. No, that's right. Because the whole theory here is that the story itself will be on the web, and the way you get to it would be, we're trying to limit the amount of physical signage and maximize the amount of material that's available on the web, not only for the people who are there physically, but for anybody anywhere who wants to get access to this story. So yes, it would be both the website and the signage.
Will there be signage in places other than along that trail and at those kiosks? For example, will there be a QR code associated with this project somewhere in the new library?
Oh, you mean the downtown library?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know, somebody might not, if somebody's visiting or new to town or something like that,
Yes.
may not know anything about North Amherst, but find it either at the library or somewhere else and want to visit.
Right. So very, very brief. I know you're running out of time, but yeah, absolutely. Again, one of the reasons to make this web heavy is because, I mean, I'm a trustee of the Historical Society. I hope certainly have a point of access to this at the History Center, the Jones, any place like that. You want to be able to get people into this, whether they're up in the frozen north or not. Yeah.
Mhm. And certainly at the North Amherst Library, I would think.
Yes. That's one of our kiosk locations, we hope.
Yes. Mhm.
Great. Jason, you good with that? All right. And Jonas, last word. Squeaking in.
Just wondering, how much traffic is already on these trails? Is there a hope that you're going to be drawing traffic to these trails, and that's the recreation angle of it, that these signs will be kind of a build it and they will come effect? And then, yeah, so, and the signs themselves, like you impart a lot of information. So I don't know, I guess you kind of talked about how the balance of what the signs will be and how much text it will be versus, yeah, I guess the main question is, how could this not have the intended traction that you would like? Have you thought of that and like kind of incorporate that in, maximizing the impact that you have, so that it's not just the signs are there and they're not seen. And
Yeah. Yeah, I think this also goes to Jason's point. While the location is a location, right? And if you want to go up there and walk the trail, you can. And that's the passive recreation part of this. We go up there a lot and we see a lot of people using it, but they're mostly walking their dogs. There's things going on. We're hoping to get a model going here where there are other reasons to get out and utilize the town's natural landscape. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to be trying to get people funneled into this through the schools, through the library, through other civic organizations, because that's the beauty of it. It exists at a larger level as well as on the ground.
And so there is good trail infrastructure there already. I'll never
Yes.
up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
this
it's
is good.
natural curriculum material as well for K through 12. And I think potentially for the public history program at UMass, I could see how they could really add on to this with perhaps a driving tour. That, of course, would take you off the trail, but it would take you to the extant buildings and the historic districts.
And I took 24 people, 2.5 miles up and down this trail, and they had a great time.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you, Margaret and Brian. Really appreciate the work you're doing. Thank you for your presentation tonight and answering all our questions.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Happy
Bye, Margaret.
holidays. So we have one more presentation, but we unfortunately have, I don't believe anyone is here from Goodwin Church. We have done a lot of outreach. I made phone calls this week. I've left messages. The town has left messages. We've written to folks there. I know that they met with the Historic Commission on October 20th. So I know they were still interested in participating in the process, but we just have not heard from anyone that they would be here. Nothing to confirm, and I don't see anyone in attendance. So the CPA application doesn't state crystal clearly that you are required to attend a presentation. So I don't think there's a conversation here tonight about whether or not I think we have to deliberate next meeting about this, but unfortunately we didn't receive responses to our questions either, so we don't have that additional information from the applicant. So it does, put them at a disadvantage in that way. But that doesn't, according to my reading of all of our application and process, it doesn't make them ineligible. And if anyone else had wanted to discuss that, we can do that now or at the next meeting. The last agenda item is on anything I didn't anticipate, the chair did not anticipate at least 48 hours in advance. I don't have anything there, but I'm willing to take questions from the committee. And Ellen, your hand was up first.
Yes, regarding the Goodwin Church, you said they met with the Historical Commission?
Yes.
Answer questions. Could maybe Leah could provide a link to that recording so we could at least see what some of those questions, maybe it answered some of our questions and would help.
Yep. We can, Leah is nodding,
Yes.
and I
Okay.
do have a link too, so we'll get that to you.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Sure. And Bob, you had a question.
Ellen, I think that's a great idea. I was going to suggest we also, to give them, they put the application together, that we go back and read that application again, just to give it a fair hearing in the absence of a presenter.
For sure. No, I highly recommend that they're part of the deliberations. I just want to give some background that they're over the course of the last 2 months, we've had, emails and voicemails and even a letter sent last week. So I want to make sure the committee understood that.
You mean you've been trying to contact them? Or they've been
Yes.
contacting us?
No. We both the town and Leah, other members of the town, staff, myself, we've all been doing outreach, LinkedIn, emails, phone numbers. I reviewed the proposal again. I found a new phone number a few days ago. I called that number, left a message. So we've been trying everything we can.
Okay.
Just wanted to make sure they had the information and, if they could be here or if they needed a different date or something, but we just haven't heard back. Other questions from the committee? Any questions about preparation between now and the 15th that we didn't cover earlier? I will send out through Leah, kind of just a bulleted suggestion of things to review, and with the template and at least a screenshot or something of the large spreadsheet that we use during deliberation, so you have a sense of how that feeds into that part of the process. Jonas.
Where are the recordings? Where can we access the recordings? The meeting recordings?
So I will receive a link tomorrow morning for today's recording, and I can email that to you directly.
But you haven't been
other
emailing.
ones as well?
Well, I'm not. I just want to make sure I haven't been missing.
No, previous ones you can find on the CPA part of the town website.
Okay.
Yeah, there are links there. Yeah. And I know, Angus, you joined us a little bit later. I hope everyone's asleep. Okay, good. But if you had, we
Are you talking about the committee members or?
no, in his household, that's all.
Okay.
Sorry, Tim. No, we just reviewed, just some of the things to do in preparation for the fifth, to be able to deliberate on the 15th, which is, you'll see in the email, like just getting your own rankings put together in advance and having your notes ready to talk about why you are in favor of or against or have questions about. Yeah. Tim.
Yes, I'm not sure whether we want to discuss this today or before or as we begin next week's meeting on our preliminary decisions and opinions about each project. If I recall, last year and years past, we would go to committee member, say me, and I would then rank all the projects and go 5, 5, 4, 3, blah, 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 as opposed to hearing everybody's ranking for each project at a time. It's a little different. You know what I mean? And for me, I find it helpful if we say, let's pick the first one, this Amity Street redevelopment project. If we took that as a project, maybe it's more burdensome for us to just sort of do a roll call on each project and we just fill in the numbers that way rather than start with me and I go through all the projects and rank them. You know what I mean? It's a different way of doing it. And we might want to think about what's most helpful or not, or whether it makes any difference at all. I just felt it made a little more sense to me to rank each project at a time as opposed to hear each committee member at a time. So let's think about that.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. And I'm open to other suggestions either before then or at the meeting. So thank you. Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. I was just going to highlight on the website, and Lee and I spoke about this earlier today, just the, I believe it's called it's the 2021, I think it's called the strategic plan or
Yes.
the CPA plan. I found that really helpful.
Yes.
I live that, I've been doing this for about 20 years with various members of the CPA, but I read it today and I just found it a really good refresher on criteria and all of that. And it's a quick read. And I would just, if you have time during the holidays before you make your rankings, I think it's really interesting to read. And then, again, if you're really glutton, I also went on the CPA website, the Mass CPA Coalition website. Again, that's a deeper dive, but it's very interesting just to read. You can sort by town. You can do Amherst projects. I often look at Amherst and Northampton because we're similar communities in some ways. So just to refresh my memory on kind of what things were funded. But if you have a quick second, I think that strategic plan is a really good reminder and refresher on the work of CPA committees, and ours in particular. That was some good work that a previous committee did here in Amherst.
Yeah, I think a couple of us were part of that, and I will include that as a link for folks because I refer to that all the time, and it isn't a long read. And I know some of you have looked at it already, but it's good to have. And I appreciate the note around the state too, because I've also dug into that, and it can be very interesting. So thanks, Dave, for that. Angus.
Dave, that plan is the one from May 2021, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that's the most recent. I think the practice is to review it every 5 years or something like that. So that could be on our docket at some point. But anyway, it's totally worth looking through before you start looking at your notes and rankings. Yeah. Great. Well, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
I second.
Thank you, Jason. And all those in favor, just, thumbs up. And a happy holidays to everyone. And
Yes.
Thank you, Katie.
yeah, thank you. Best wishes in the new year. We'll see you on January 15th.
Thank you. Happy holidays, everybody.
holidays.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.
Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone.